Hey everyone, so in this episode we're actually going to move some of our new functionality with Firebase into their own actions so that we could just do everything in Redux and then store everything in the reducers and have it available globally when someone logs in or creates an account. So right now we have our login function. We were able to successfully log in with an email, or not log in, we were able to successfully create an account with an email@email.com. Super simple. But now we want to move this functionality to the actions. And so first we're going to go to our user actions and we're going to start creating a new function and call it export const login equals. And then here we're going to do something a little bit differently. So before, in the last couple, update email, update password, username, bio, we're just returning a string. So we don't do anything, any type of functionality with that. We're just taking it in and returning it so that it updates the global state. In this, instead, we're going to return a function, and then we're going to move our functionality into there. Oops. And then this one's actually for sign up, so we're going to rename this to sign up, and we're going to copy and paste this for login. So right now we have create username with email and password. We want to go back to the documentation to figure out what it is for logging in. Basically the same thing, but instead of create user, it's sign in, and everything else is the same. So it still takes in an email and password, but since we move this, now we don't have access to this.props.user.email in this format. We could just pass it in email and password, and then we could call it that way in this function. So we could do, first we would have to import login down here. So we're importing that function, and we could do this.props.login and then pass in this.props.email and so on and so on. But instead of doing that, we have this functionality within Redux, which is super convenient. We could do get state. And what that does, it gets the global state in here instead of passing it in through the function. Sorry, I want to do it up here. Get state. And the way that we call that is, so we can do const email and password equals get state, and then this is a function, so it returns a function, so you have to call that function, and then on that function it returns the global state, and in that global state we want to get the user object. And then within that user object, we're grabbing the email and password and assigning it to const called email and password. So now we can just call email and password. The next thing we want to do is, since this is a function, we want to change it to ES7 syntax. So right now you could just do, we only have a function for an error. So if it's an error, it catches that error. And if you want to do on success, you could do .then function, add another function, console log, success. So this will work. But moving forward, I want to stick with ES7 syntax. It looks a hell of a lot nicer, and it's kind of the future of JavaScript. So it just makes sense from both ends, and you'll see what I'm saying in a second, because we're just going to comment this out, and we'll do that same functionality in ES7. So the way that works is, this is a promise. That's why we're calling .then. So what Firebase is doing is signing in that user, and then it's resolving that promise with .then if it's successful. If it's a failed, then it would be .catch. So instead of that, we're going to do const response equals await. And so this is pretty cool because instead of doing that dot then, you could use the await keyword and wait for that response instead of doing that then. In order to use await, man, I am struggling today to get my words out. In order to use await, you have to attach async to the function. So you have to create an async function, and then that allows you async await to call the await on Firebase. And the cool thing with await is you could do multiple awaits. So you could do, you only have to call async once, and you could do response equals sign in, and then you could wait for that user. If it's successful, then you could do a call to Firebase to store that information, and then wait for that, and then once that's all done, then log in the user. So you could chain these awaits, and it's especially convenient when we're uploading a photo because there's a lot of different calls we're doing, and before that file would be like 50 lines, and with async await it's like 20. So it just looks a lot cleaner, and it's a lot easier to read. And I spelled response wrong. So we're calling Firebase sign in with email and password with our get state email and password, and then with that response, for now we're just going to console log it and see what it gives us. And then in login, now we don't need to pass in anything to it because we have get state. And let's see what we broke. So invalid left hand side, sign